So if you do not mind, I'm going to go ahead and kick things off.
All right.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. My name is Isaac Hobson, and I am the current chair of the Virginia Library Association Professional Associates Forum. Today is our 5th virtual session for our Summer of Mental Health Information Sessions. We are super excited for everybody to join today. Today, Beth Frackleton will be leading our session. Beth is a BSN, RN, and a National Board Certified Health and Wellness Coach. She is also a certified personal trainer and a certified chair yoga instructor. She is part of the UVA-WorkMed team for employee health at the University of Virginia. Beth will lead a chair yoga session and a guided imagery that focuses on rebuilding your health and well-being. I'll ask that everyone keeps themselves muted while Beth leads this session unless you're asked to unmute. Feel free to drop questions into the chat box. I'll be moderating the chat as well as taking down any potential questions if we have time for a Q&A. We'll try to answer as many things as we can if there's any time left over. We'll be recording this session as well, so if you have to leave early, you can always watch it later. Enough from me though. I would like to officially pass the mic, or in this case, the chair, over to Beth so that she can begin her information session. So Beth, the floor is all yours.
Oh, thank you so much for that introduction. And yeah, there's not much to add. I have the pleasure of working as a health coach here at the University of Virginia, and I get to serve the employees here. And one of my favorite things that I get to do, in addition to seeing my clients individually or leading groups, is actually do the very thing I'm going to share with you guys today. It's this chair yoga class. And because it not only, I feel, it benefits hopefully the people that I'm serving when I teach it, but it always makes me feel better as well. So this is always a delight to be able to do this. And so hopefully you can hear me. I'm not in the most, I guess, it's not the most beautiful space here. I'm actually pretty much in a little closet today, and I apologize for that. But the room that I usually use, our conference room, is being utilized by the nurses today. So I said, as long as I've got a quiet space, I'm good. So let's go ahead and get started. And thank you so much for being here today and sharing this time with me. What I'm going to do is, as Isaac had said, is I'm going to start off with some chair yoga, and then I'll transition into some kind of a meditation that I've got planned. So, and I'll keep you posted as we go along. So for starters, let's just to sort of transition ourselves into the chair yoga. Let's just get yourself comfortable in your chair, and in most any chair will do. If you have wheels on your chair, there may be some times when I just sort of remind you, if you have wheels, just be mindful, like, that it could slide. Otherwise, any chair will do. And so just kind of get yourself comfortable, seated back with good posture. It's usually recommended that we keep our shoulders up and back. And let's start with some deep breaths. And just slowly take some deep breaths, particularly focusing on that exhalation, and allow your body to sort of just soften and relax with each exhalation that you take. And I usually recommend closing eyes, doing part of it, particularly now the deep breaths. But the other option, of course, is just to lower your gaze a little bit, with just a few feet in front of you. And that just helps with distractions, reducing distractions. But please just do whatever feels comfortable to you. And as you take each exhalation, just again, allow your body to soften and relax, just focusing on that breath. Maybe finding an anchor point, and that may be sometimes for some people, it's where their feet touch the floor. It may be where your lower back makes contact with your chair. Some people like to focus on the inhalation at this point and noticing the coolness of their breath. And just take this little time here just to breathe. And try to do your best you can to sort of leave the morning and the early part of the day behind as you just bring your attention now to your breath. if you have any intrusive thoughts that kind of jump in, you know what, instead of, fighting that or feeling frustrated, just recognize them and actually be grateful that your mind is active and that it's doing what it is supposed to do. Just gently just nudge them to the side, try not to judge or be frustrated, knowing that that's completely normal. And today I thought that I would start off again with, just before we get into our stretches, just some diaphragmatic breathing, because I feel like this, if one thing, is one of the best tools that you can have for yourself that you can use anytime during the day. And I like to just place my hands on top of my diaphragm here with my fingers barely touching. And as you take a breath, like if you take it, as you inhale, you notice, can you feel your diaphragm expanding? And then on exhalation, just noticing your diaphragm contract. So take a few of these diaphragmatic, or otherwise known as tummy breathing, and do a few on your own, just noticing how your diaphragm contracts and expands. And this is helpful with just recognizing that mind-body connection, that we really can, our mind can control our body, if you will. And as you take these diaphragmatic breaths, I want you to sort of just think about how this breath can actually lower your blood pressure, your heart rate, and just help decrease the stress hormone from being produced. And there's some studies show that it actually can lower your blood glucose. So just think, with these diaphragmatic tummy breaths, you have the ability to just calm your body down. And I'll give you a few seconds here just to take a few more breaths. And I'm hoping that this will also help to just continue to allow you to relax a little bit more. And then when you think you're ready, you can just open up your eyes, and then we will begin with our stretches. And I always like to remind people that when I'm leading these stretches, this is just a guide. If I do a stretch that you feel like is just not available to you today, no worries at all. Maybe take that time to just take some deep breaths. This is all about you and what you need. So always stay within your comfort zone. And the other tip I like to remind people is just to continue to breathe throughout. It's not uncommon, and I do it. I find myself doing it, actually sometimes holding my breath. And I'm like, I'm not supposed to do that. But, don't be frustrated. Just go, okay, that's right. I need to breathe. And your breath here is just comfortable and normal breaths at this point. But just remember to try to remind yourself to breathe, as opposed to what sometimes we want to do is hold our breath. So let's begin our stretches. And sitting back in a chair with good posture, let's start off with some eye stretches, because most of us these days are on, our screens so much that this stretch is very beneficial for those of us that are on our screens a lot. So keeping your head in neutral position, if you just roll your eyes up, hold for a couple of seconds, bring them back down to neutral, and then lower your gaze for a few seconds. And then again, bring your eyes back to neutral, always just breathing normally. Now, if you will, head in neutral, roll your eyes to the left for a few seconds, back to neutral. And then let's all roll our eyes to the right, hold for a few seconds, and back to neutral. Now let's go ahead and roll our eyes like in clockwise. So head in neutral, let's roll to the top, bringing your eyes to the top, go to 3 o'clock, bring them down to 6, to 9, and then up to 12 o'clock. Breathing normally, and then we'll go counterclockwise, starting at 12, 9, 6, 3, back up to the top. Now let's close your eyes just for a few seconds here. And then you can open just to watch me for this one. Now let's just bring our palms of our hands together, just creating some friction, some nice warmth. And then close your eyes again, if you will. And just after you feel like you've created some heat, just place your hands over top of your eyelids, just allowing them to, to benefit from your eyes being closed and the warmth of your palm. It just encourages them to relax a little bit more, feeling the warmth from your hand. And then you can release your hands. And I've actually read that some of these eye exercises can help with your vision. So who knows, but at least I think it does provide some relief and help with fatigue that we can experience with our screens, working on our screens. So now we're going to progress down a little bit further. So let's go ahead and start with some neck stretches. So again, using good posture, I'm just going to place my hands in my lap, lower my chin, feeling the stretch in the back of the neck, and then bring them back up to neutral, nice and gentle with your stretches here with your neck, and then lift the chin, feeling the stretch in the front of the neck, then back to neutral. Now let's go and turn to look over a right shoulder. But I always remind people to please be gentle, just stay with what you have today. Then back to center. Now let's look over our left shoulder, feeling the stretch in the left side of the neck. And back to center. Again, just remembering to just breathe comfortably throughout all of these stretches. I'm going to add one more neck stretch. Now we're lowering your right ear towards your shoulder. Now I'm not expecting to touch here. I'm just lowering my ear to get closer to that shoulder. Back to neutral. Now I'm going to lower that left ear towards that left shoulder, feeling the stretch in the right side of the neck. And back to neutral. Very nice, everyone. So let's just go back and take a couple of more deep breaths on your own. And then particularly focusing on that exhalation again. Just reminding yourself to continue to soften and relax. I'll give you a few more seconds here. I hope that you're starting to feel more relaxed at this point. More seconds. Very good. Okay, now we'll continue on down. Typically then we've done the eyes and the neck. Let's work on some shoulder stretches. So for starters, I thought we would just start off with some shoulder circles. So alternating your rotation of your shoulders, sort of like a bike. So let's just maybe do 4 or 5 going forward. And if you can increase the diameter of that movement, that's great. But if not, just keep it right in that same rotation and then just pause. And then we'll do the same thing going back. Again, stay with what you've got. These should not hurt. They should feel just a little bit of a stretch. You don't want to do anything that causes pain or discomfort. And then relax. And always remind you to just continue to breathe comfortably. And for the next one, let's do some shoulder shrugs. So let's do 5 of those. So an inhale, bring the shoulders up just close to your ears, and exhale. Do a few more. Inhale and then let them drop. Exhale. Again, let's do a couple more. And one more. Very good. All right. Hope that the shoulders are feeling a little bit better. I'm going to add one more shoulder stretch here today. And for this one, I'll just demonstrate. It'll also get a little bit of our tricep. So what we do is just extend I'm just going to start with my right arm. It doesn't really matter what side you start with. And then I'm just going to like reach over and tap my opposite shoulder. And then I'm taking my opposite hand and just pulling it in. And you see sometimes people doing with this when they're trying to stretch their triceps a little bit, but it also stretches out that shoulder. Hold for a few seconds and then release. And since we've got this arm out, let's go ahead and just pull back. If you can see, just kind of pulling back on my fingers, and you should feel the stretch on the inside of your forearm here a little bit. Stretch out those little tendons in there, if you will. And after a few seconds, maybe just do a few wrist circles. We might as well get to everything we can with this one. Maybe a few 3 to 5 in one direction, pause. And then we'll do 3 to 5 in the other direction, continuing to breathe comfortably and relax. Very nice. Do you notice the difference between the side that you stretched and the side that you didn't? If you don't, that's fine, but sometimes it's a good way to kind of bring that mind and body and just kind of noticing the differences in the side that you've stretched and not stretched. So now we'll repeat that with the other side. Arm out, kind of just stretching it out with his fingers and then bringing it to the opposite shoulder and then just pushing in here, always being gentle, noticing the stretch obviously with the back of the arm and the shoulder. Hold for a few seconds as you continue to breathe and then you may let go. And then I'm going to just repeat this one, just holding back, pulling back on those fingers, feeling the stretch in the inner part of your forearm there. Hold and breathe. And then we'll go back to some wrist circles, if you will. Just a few in one direction, and a few in the other. Very good. Nice. And relax. Let's take this opportunity here to just go back to some breathing. I think it's always helpful just to sort of take a break from the stretches. And this time, as you take a breath, it's sometimes helpful to close your eyes, but you don't feel obligated to do so. But when you inhale and exhale, what I'd like you to do is what we call even breathing. I want you to, for example, when you inhale, like maybe on the count of 1, 2, 3, and then exhale 2, 3. So if you can find a count that feels comfortable to you, 2, 3, 4, just for whatever your inhalation count is, and make your exhalation the same. And I'll just give you, 30 to 45 seconds here to do some on your own. Just finding out, just kind of getting a nice little rhythm there. Just focusing on sort of the same count for the inhalation as the exhalation. Just a few more seconds here, allowing you to get another breath in. Very nice. And then we'll continue down with the upper part of our chest and the upper part of our spine, actually. So for the next one, this is actually one of my favorite ones, is I'm going to actually just adjust and kind of get towards the end of my chair. Some of you may not need to do that. Sometimes I'm short, so sometimes when I'm a chair that is too tall, I have to get the edge to touch. That's not the case today, but sometimes it is. So I'm just placing my hands behind my hips, or actually I'm placing them towards the back of the seat of the chair. You may have to adjust to see what feels comfortable to you, and I'll demonstrate this stretch. But I want to just kind of hold the back of the chair and just kind of lift your rib cage like this, and then lift the chin. And what I'm focusing on is opening up this chest area. When we're in our, screens all day, how we're kind of hunched over like this, what this stretch does is opens up that chest and allows us to breathe. So once you get that position, just hold for a couple of seconds, opening up, and then release. And then we'll come and do the opposite, where I'm going to bring my hands now on top of my knees. Okay, they're on my lap, just above my knees. And I'm going to bend from the waist. And as I'm leaning forward, I'm going to spread open my shoulder blades, tucking my chin and rounding my shoulders. So I'm doing what is not good posture, but it's just to stretch out that back. And we're going to do this one again. So the first one you can count kind of is just like a rough draft, just a little practice. So let's repeat that one. This is something you might want to do throughout the day too, particularly if you're like this all day. And that can, cause a lot of strain. So we'll just grab the back of their seats here. And again, I'm using your hands, this is for leverage, but you open up your chest, tilt your chin up so that you can get a really good stretch in those chest muscles. Open, hold for a few seconds, and then release. So that's, this is sort of doing the opposite of how we sit all day. And then we want to stretch out the upper part of the spine as well. So hands again above the knees or anywhere on your lap. And you're leaning, from your hips or from your waist, if you will. Open up those shoulder blades, spread them open, tucking the chin, rounding the shoulders, hold and breathe. Slowly come back up. If you feel a little bit dizzy as you come back up, that's okay. That's very normal. Just, just recognize it's normal, and it should go away in just a few seconds. And I'm just going to give you a second or two here, just to sort of, if you did feel that way, to sort of, ground yourself and kind of help you get rid of that little feeling. So just take a breath or two if you need it. Very good. Hope that you're feeling more relaxed, and we'll just continue on down the body at this point. So let's see. Yes, we're going to do a little bit of a lower back and some of the hamstring stretch. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go back just as far as I can. And then I may even stand a little bit, but I may not need to for you to see. So what I'm doing is grabbing my knee. Hope you can see the top of my knee. And I'm just putting, my hands at the bottom of it. And I'm just bringing my knee up towards my chest. And then I'm just going to lower my forehead. And I'm not trying to touch, but I'm just trying to bring them closer together and close the gap, if you will. Just hold for a few seconds. If you feel like you can go a little bit lower with your forehead or bring the knee up a little bit closer, great, but just hold and breathe and then release. And this stretch, obviously we're in a chair, so we may not get the same stretch we would on the ground or the floor, but it is still a good stretch for the lower back and your hamstrings and even your glutes. So, this is one that you can do while you're in a chair. So I'm just going to repeat that same thing on the other side. So I'm going to just reach for my knee, but I'm actually grabbing the lower part of my shin. And then I'm just lowering my forehead. Hold for a few seconds. And if, you feel like you can go a little deeper, feel free to do so. Hold for a few seconds, let go, and continue to breathe. Very nice. Now, this next stretch I'm going to show, I'm going to demonstrate because I think it's beneficial for your hips. I don't know how much the camera will show, so I'm going to stand up a little bit. If you can get your, obviously going to do this seated. I'm just standing so you can see me. See how I'm like an upside down 4? I've taken one leg and I've crossed it over. If this is not available to you while you're seated, no worries. We've still got more stretches. What I'll get you to do is just to cross over at the lower part of your leg. In other words, instead of bringing it up here, maybe cross over your calf muscles or your ankles. So always stay with what you have. Don't go out of your comfort zone. So I'm going to cross over. This looks like an upside down 4. So I'm going to place one hand on the knee that's bent and the other hand under my foot. And then I'm going to lean forward, and you should feel a stretch in that hip. And I don't care how often I do this, every time I do this stretch, it's like I've never done it before. It really gets into that piriformis muscle, and it's a muscle that we don't get to very often. Hold for a few seconds. Let go. Wow, feels great. And relax. We're going to do the other side. And again, I encourage you to just, if that's a stretch you can do, great. If not, just cross over and you can still lean forward and get a similar stretch. So it's always an alternative. Now let's go to the other side. I'm making that upside down 4. Okay, I'm supporting my foot and my knee, and I'm leaning forward. Oh, it feels so good. I can feel it on this side too. And I always encourage people, if you can get to this point and you feel fine, then stay there. If you feel like you got a little bit more, then you can lean in a little bit more. And release. Very nice. Great job, everyone. Let's go ahead and take another breath. Good. And I would like to just add a couple of stretches that we can actually do standing. If this is not what you need today, you could always go back to some of the stretches that we've done, or you can take this time to just do some deep breathing. But I think it is helpful to add a few add a chair stretches just for to get a little bit of extra stretching in. So if you can, I'm just going to suggest that you maybe hold on to the back of your chair, or you can use a table or a counter, whatever's available is fine. And for this one, I'm going to do a lower back stretch hamstring. Okay. So nothing too fancy. And you probably all have probably done this. I'm not in the most ideal space, but I think I can make it work. So you'll just take a couple steps back from your chair. Ideally, I'd probably go back a little bit further. So I may not be as, where I would like to be, but with a feet shoulder width apart and just a slight bend in your knee. So you don't have to lock your knees, a slight bend, just lean down until you can feel the stretch in the back of your legs and your lower back. Just hold for a few seconds. And then when you're ready, feel free to come back up. And this is a stretch that you can do throughout the day too, because if you're seated a lot, I think it's good to stretch out. And then if you, for an extra stretch, you can lower your head in between your shoulders there, you get another little shoulder stretch. The other stretch I want to show you, I think is so important because it's often left out. You know how I talked about how some of us are in our seats or a desk for long periods of time, and we're in this position, right? Because we're in a chair, and see how we're like our hips are contracted, like our hips are bent. So we have a muscle, the psoas muscle that comes up, connects somewhere down here around our groin hip area, and it runs up, and I believe it even attaches it to the diaphragm. So this is a very powerful muscle. And so it's important that what we're learning and have learned is when we stay seated so much that it contracts and it's tight and it pulls, and it can actually create some back pain. And we've always, for years, we've talked about stretching out our back like we just did in our hamstring, which is still important. But we don't want to forget this front, big, huge muscle. So I'm going to show you just a little stretch you can do that help alleviate and help stretch that. You might even find that you breathe better from it. So if you have a bad back, I want you to watch me first just to make sure this is something you're comfortable doing. But I just recommend putting your hands on your, just, here in your lower back for support. And all I'm going to suggest you do is lean back just slightly. So you're not a back bend, but just lean enough that you feel, you can just feel the front part of your hips stretching, and then maybe come back for a second, take a breath, and just lean back a little. It doesn't take too much, but it's just opening up those hips that stay so tight from being, in a chair. So this is just a nice, there are multiple, exercises to stretch this muscle out, but this is something that you can do easily by just standing and just opening up your hips just a little bit. I recommend doing that. And I've talked to many people that just, stretching out that muscle, that powerful muscle, has made a difference in how they feel. So good. Well, thank you so much for joining me for the chair yoga. I would like to go into a little meditation. So I'm going to get closer. I'm actually, I think, going to take myself off the camera because I just want you to, I was getting ready to take somebody else off the camera. I'm just going to speak to you. You don't have to go off.
Beth, do you mind actually repeating the name of the muscle that you mentioned on the front?
Psoas.
Do you know how
Psoas.
that's spelled?
Psoas.
Perfect. Thank you, Beth.
Yes. All right. Can you guys hear me okay?
Perfectly.
All right. So what I want you to do is just to get comfortable back in your chairs. And the name of this meditation that I'm going to share with you today is called Cultivating and Positive Quality, Creating Space for Personal Growth. I want to thank you for joining me today for this second part. And I just feel like mindfulness is a good part of our well-being. It can help with resilience. It can help with personal growth and help us make better choices. And just as you're taking a couple of breaths, today I'd like for us to engage with our intentions. The difference between an intention and a goal, oftentimes those two are confused. And the difference between those two is that a goal is kind of the end point, the place that where we're going to arrive, where the intention is the moment by moment experience, and that we're that we're having on our path to reaching that goal. So they're very different, and sometimes they can be confused. So how you intend to show up for your intention is very important. People begin to set these types of intentions or at the new year, at the start of a new year, of a new job, or your birthday, or some people use this type of exercise just to start your day off, or maybe working on a big project, or maybe the start of a month, or you can use it at any moment throughout your day where you decide that you need to have a little bit of a pause or a reset, and maybe just the time to reconnect to your intention. So what we'll do is we'll begin to start by grounding ourselves and the body touching base with our breath. And then I'm going to prompt you with a couple of questions. And the most important question I'm going to ask you is, what's the quality that you personally would like to cultivate for yourself? Now, I don't want you to answer that question now because we haven't really started yet, but just keep in mind when I say this, when I asked you in this question, to start to approach this question with a little bit of kindness,
some curiosity, and maybe some peace as you began to approach this contemplation. So, as with every meditation, we'll begin by finding, getting comfortable, that like I've asked you to do, and whatever feels most comfortable to you. And just, as you've closed your eyes, just kind of focusing on your posture, your breath. Some people like to put their palms down or placed on their thighs. Just give you a few seconds here. Just allowing your lower body, your legs and thighs and pelvis area just to relax. Allowing your legs to become heavy and just your hip sockets to release. And a moment just to connect with the earth underneath you. Allow your spine to have a sense of a weightlessness that lifts you up just slightly. And you can maybe imagine this golden thread being pulled up through your spine or the base of your skull that lifts you just slightly as you stack one vertebrae over top of the other. Allow your belly to soften and your shoulders and neck to relax and soften, maintaining the nice natural curves of the spine. And allow your head to float on top of all this with your chin slightly tucked, nice and easy. You may notice a little slight sway in your posture, but that's normal and that's okay, that's fine. And then from here, just connecting to the breath, allowing yourself to breathe a little deeper on the next inhalation and exhalation, lengthening out your breath slightly. And just taking a moment to note wherever you feel the breath, maybe that's entering and exiting in the nostrils, or maybe even your upper chest. You may notice it in the belly area. Just noticing that sensation of the breath coming in and out. And then we're going to connect with our sense of self. To do that, I'd like you to place either one or two hands over your heart and just simply notice the sensation and the energy around the heart space. Take a moment to notice the beat of your heart and to take a moment to notice the rhythm. And then, nice and easy, we'll invite you to this one simple question for today. Just allowing yourself some space to think and contemplate this question. What quality would you like most to cultivate in yourself? What quality would you like most to cultivate in yourself? And just allowing the questions kind of along a little bit. And then as you're breathing and as you're exhaling, see if you can connect to the response. I'll leave you here for a few seconds to contemplate whatever comes up. What quality would you like to cultivate? And if nothing comes to mind or nothing is kind of sticking at this particular moment, you know what? That's okay. Maybe in place of that, in place of this exercise, you may decide to bring in a person that you admire, maybe someone you know personally, or maybe someone you admire from afar, from a distance. Just bring that person to mind. And then once you're there, and once they're present with you, see if you can distill into a single word that thing that you most admire about them. What quality do you most admire about this person? And let's take a couple of moments to imagine that their presence and that single quality is here in this container with you, their space with you. And now you can begin to release the image of this person. You may even want to thank them before they go. And just taking a moment to feel the connection that the two of you had, and then returning one more time to your sense of self and asking yourself that question. What is the one quality I'd like to cultivate in myself? And then moving from the thoughts that you've had, maybe move to the sensation of touch. Maybe noticing the sensation of the clothes on your skin. Then maybe moving on to sound. Maybe noticing the sound, a resonance of my voice. You may even want to open and close your mouth a few times and move your tongue around and just notice the sensation of taste. And maybe bringing your focus to any smells in the room. And then I'm just going to ask you to just bring your focus back to your breath. And as you're taking some deep breaths, I'm going to ask you to take 4 deep breaths. And on exhalation, I'd like for you to think of, go back and to think of that one quality that you like, that your mind crossed, that you thought about moments ago. And then as you exhale, maybe say that quality to yourself. On exhalation, I'll give you a little bit of time here, breathing on your own. Just saying that to yourself on exhalation. And then if your eyes are closed, nice and easy, you can maybe slowly peel them open if you'd like, maybe allowing a little bit of light to be present. And now as you're here in this moment with your eyes open and listening to my voice, just acknowledge your practice with a moment of gratitude. And know that you can come back to this practice, or you can come back to any of the deep breathing techniques that we did, any of the stretches. They were available to you any time of the day. And what a gift that is, that just having the ability to breathe and to take some deep breaths, and that the difference it can make not only in our physical, but our mental well-being. I'd also like you to take a moment and to thank yourselves for taking time out of the day for some self-care. And as you slowly bring in your awareness back into the room, I thank you so much for joining me today. It was a pleasure. And namaste.
Thank you so much. I feel very relaxed. I also guess I didn't quite realize how I've never moved my eyeballs before like that. That was a very surprising. I think my body was not expecting that, but this was
Well,
lovely.
this has been a pleasure for me. And, I'm available for a few minutes if anybody has any questions. I appreciate you taking the time, and there's no right or wrong way to stretch as long as it feels comfortable and it's not painful. But I think the one message is just to take time for yourself, a few minutes every day, any kind of activity, whether it's listening to your favorite music, it's taking a warm bath, putting on, lighting candles with your favorite scent. It's just pausing long enough, just to be good to yourself for a few minutes every day. And that will help build some resilience, particularly in these, times that we've been through the last year and a half. It's been challenging. So just take the time to be good to yourself. And I appreciate the opportunity to share this with you.
So, may I actually had a question in the chat, if that's okay.
Oh,
So,
sure.
somebody wanted to know if there was kind of a place to learn more about chair yoga sessions, or if there was a place where you found that maybe you could get more access to information if people wanted to take on more stretches, essentially, as well too. If you had a good resource or a good suggestion for that.
What I can do is let me look into that a little bit and I can email you. And that's something that I could share and then you could just share with
Perfect.
me.
Easily, absolutely.
It's not uncommon I know this is going to sound kind of strange, but like cardiac, you're probably going to go, oh, I don't want that. But there's some cardiac rehab places. This yoga that I do actually started from a cardiac rehab center. There was a psychologist that quickly learned that, she was in a clinic working with heart patients, and they learned through teaching them to relax. Sometimes it prevented from needing heart surgery down the road, but it was also used as recovery. Someone recovering from stents or things like that. And so it's not uncommon to have chair yoga and a cardiac rehab, but that it's open for others, not just those patients. They usually welcome anyone because any of us can benefit from de-stressing. I'm going to see I'll try to see what's available. The other thought I have, and I don't know, you guys may not be interested in this, but I usually teach this twice. Right now I have with our library here at UVA, through them, I do a chair yoga Zoom format just like this, and it meets generally twice a month. And I'll add people to the list. If anybody's interested, we could just get your email and you could join us. It would be noon. It's usually at noon on 2 Wednesdays a month.
That sounds amazing.
Why not? And the cool thing about Zoom is, there's no limit.
Yeah, of course.
And I usually do similar what I did. Sometimes I vary the stretches a little bit. Sometimes I do the same ones because I just think they're so beneficial. And let's face it, there's not but so many you can do in a chair, but I try to break it up. And then I do different kinds of visualizations and meditations each week. They all vary. But yeah, that's an option. And I will, I'll email you with that information and I'll look around to see what's available, even what's available to anyone.
Cool. Because we're spread all over.
Well, that's what I was getting ready to say, but right, you guys are spread all over. So it's not, your VCU is on my brain, but it's everywhere. So yeah, but as long as you've got access to the internet, but I'll see what's available because there are other stretchers, they're not, but so many because, what in the chair, but there's so many more that I didn't do.
Yeah,
And I
we
try
love
to
it.
sort
I
of,
love it.
you know,
Absolutely. I know we'll be sending out the recordings, so if you don't mind passing those on, I'm happy to be able to forward those to everybody that's in here. And
okay, that would love to.
I do have one more question that I
Yeah.
actually think is quite cool. So somebody wants to know if you had any tips about doing chair yoga with children, like younger, 6, 7, 8, 9 year olds. I'm
Wow.
not sure if the same things are applicable or if there's.
Well, you know what? I'll be honest, I've never done that, but I tell you what, I think that's an outstanding idea. Wow. Because you're never too, even if you spent some time just doing some deep breathing, I mean, what better skill can you give somebody that they can learn to calm themselves down, to teach themselves, and it can just help with being mindful as we slow down. We just make better decisions. And I always, when I work with my individual clients, I get people to practice some deep breathing before they even eat, because I think it slows us down. And it doesn't have to be like, an obvious thing, like if you're in the public, you can kind of just sit there and take a couple of breaths when no one's really noticing. But and if you're feeling stressed in the day, it just helps you to, okay, you've got a meeting that maybe you're not looking forward to going to, or a conversation you're going to have. It just helps you just to calm down and make better decisions. And children, I think they could learn to do tummy breathing, even if it's, you don't have to like make sure it's great, but it's just slowing down. Like, hey, do you feel the cool air in your nose? And some of these stretches, they obviously they can't, I can't imagine why they'd be harmful in any way. And then I always tell people, if something doesn't feel good, just don't do it. I think that's a wonderful idea.
Yeah, I like it. I think especially too when you think about how kind of I think learning at a younger age is usually a lot better later on, where if you build those habits early on, they really impact you later on down the road.
Right. We can't learn these skills soon enough,
Yeah, exactly.
And so great idea. You planted a seed.
Well, that was Barber County.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate everything, Beth. I think that's it for today's session.
Okay.
Appreciate everybody who came
Yes.
out. A massive thank you to Beth for making all of this possible.
Oh, great.
And,
Well, you're so welcome. And I will be back in touch via email soon.
that sounds perfect. So have a great day, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye.